I'm Deepesh Patel, editor at Treasury Payments. I'm delighted to be joined by the director of the Trade Facilitation Programme of the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, Shona Tatchell. Shona, welcome back.
Thank you, Deepesh. It's great to see you again.
Likewise. So, look, the last time I think we spoke on an interview, you just started leading the Trade Facilitation Programme, and since our big conversation, so in Yerevan, I'd like to ask you a pretty frank question about how you deal with doing the BAU, the business as usual, that's guarantees and trade loans at EBRD, in the face of what's been a pretty crazy year of geopolitical tensions, uncertainty and volatility.
Yeah, well, it's really interesting because I think when I first met you and I was speaking at Yerevan, introducing myself, I said this year we're going to be focusing on sustainability, so more green trade and digitalisation. And indeed, we have been doing that. We've really doubled down on our efforts to actually grow and expand our digitalisation agenda and our sustainability agenda. But, you know, the TFP itself, the Trade Facilitation Programme for EBRD, actually began its life in really tumultuous times. You know, it was sort of following the fall, well, the EBRD itself was established following the fall of the Berlin Wall and, you know, in the post-Soviet countries, really trying to help them transition to becoming open market economies. And out of that grew the Trade Facilitation Programme, really to be there to support that transition to help our banks to develop towards being, you know, private sector institutions who were able to engage with the global trade community.
Digitalisation, so you mentioned earlier that really was a key focus for you, and I think following the TFP's developments over the last year all around the world has been very interesting, and I've seen a particular focus on MLETR, the Model Law on Electronic Transferable Records adoption, and also legal reform. What's been your approach to advancing digital trade finance, and where is TFP playing the most active role in accelerating uptake across your markets?
So as you know, I have a particular passion for everything in terms of digitalisation of trade, and have been involved in this whole space for many years now. So when I arrived at EBRD, I was quite frankly, really delighted to find out how many different parts of the EBRD are actually engaged in digitalisation of trade, even departments that don't sit within trade finance. So, for example, in our Sustainable Infrastructure Group, we've got a team who've been working on development of ports and airports and single trade customs windows. We have our digital hub who work with all sorts of technology companies and really sort of understand the landscape and work with our clients across the board in helping them to digitalise. Our SME team who have also been working on helping SMEs to digitalise, and our legal transition team and our capital and financial markets division, CFMD, who work with regulators to actually try and put in place all the building blocks around digitalisation of trade end-to-end. And then, of course, the Trade Facilitation Programme itself, working with our banks, our partner banks, in helping them to understand what's going on in the world of trade digitalisation and to help them through things like our advisory and consulting and training programmes to understand the advantages and take, that opportunity to really digitalise themselves. So what we did was actually sort of worked with all of these different teams to create a network across the bank so that we all understood what everybody's working on. And this has been really led and spearheaded by our legal team, who have been incredibly successful in engaging both the private sector and the public sector, together with the help of the TFP, in Morocco and Turkey and Egypt, to present the benefits of trade digitalisation through things like, as you rightly pointed out, the MLETR. So why would they want to implement MLETR? How does that actually benefit them? and then bringing together all of these different support mechanisms that the EBRD can offer to create sort of these digital corridors.
Let's talk about something that maybe isn't gaining as much momentum, at least in the media, as our discussions last year in Yerevan. Sustainability. I guess embedding it into day-to-day transactions remains a challenge. But from your perspective, how is the Trade Facilitation Programme actually helping banks and corporates start to integrate green or ESG-linked criteria into trade flows? Are you able to dispel any myths here?
At our annual meeting, it was really fantastic to actually hear that our board and our shareholders had approved our new strategic framework for the next 5 years. And that actually incorporates the 3 key pillars upon which EBRD is actually going to be continuing to build out our business. One of those is green financing, green transition. So think of the E, the environmental, human capital. So really looking at the social side of finance, and governance, good transparency, strong institutions. And then we still have ESG, ultimately underpinned by the key enablers of digitalisation and mobilisation. Mobilisation is bringing in private capital to really support the financing and the expansion of all of our activities. So ESG for EBRD has not gone away. Absolutely, it's still fundamental to what we do.
Thank you very much. So I guess the key words there is that ESG is here to stay, and there are some real concrete examples of defined sustainable finance and green finance deals, and it makes commercial sense. And also focus on the digitalisation of that middle corridor from Mongolia and Morocco. And to our listeners, you can get involved. So Shona, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Deepesh. It's a great pleasure.